Okay, so today we're going to talk about trigonometry. And trigonometry is used when you have either two sides or one angle and a side, and you want to find the missing sides and angles for a right triangle. So the trigonometric ratios are sine, cosine, and tangent. And the sine is of angle A is the ratio of the leg opposite to angle A and the leg of the hypotenuse, and that gives you A over C. The cosine of angle A is the leg adjacent, which adjacent again means next to, and the length of the hypotenuse, and that gives you B over C. The tangent of A is the leg opposite of A, the length of A, and then the length of the leg adjacent. So that gives you A over B for those. So let's look at a different triangle with some actual values and see if we can fill those in. So if we look at the sine of angle T, here's angle T, and the length of the leg opposite to T is 8, and the hypotenuse is 17. So we end up with 8 over 17. And then if we look at cosine, that is going to be the adjacent, which is the next to leg, which is 15, over the hypotenuse, which will give you 17. And then if we look at the tangent of angle T, that gives you the opposite leg, which is 8, over the adjacent leg, which is 15. So that gives you 8 over 15. So go ahead and look at problem 1. Pause for a second and see if you can fill in the sine, cosine, and tangent ratios for angle G, which is this angle right here. Okay, so for angle G, the following are true. The sine of G, right, is going to be the opposite of G, which is 15, over the hypotenuse, which is 17. The cosine of angle G will be, again, the adjacent, which is 8, over the hypotenuse, which is 17. And the tangent of angle G, right, is going to be the opposite, which is 15 over 8. So that gives you the ratios for sine, cosine, and tangent. So then to measure indirectly, we will use an angle measurement and one side to find the missing side. Now right here in your notes, you have a hyperlinked video that will show you how to do this. So you can click on this video and that should show you some more examples in addition to the ones that we're getting ready to do right now. So the first thing I want to do is show you how to set them up, and then we'll talk about how to punch them into your calculator. For A, we have the angle of 54. So we have given 54 and one side, which is 17, and we're looking for W. So we want to talk about which one of the ratios should we use to get this. And remember that sine is going to give us opposite over hypotenuse, and that cosine is going to be adjacent side over hypotenuse, and that tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent. So from 54, we have the adjacent side, and we're looking for this opposite side. However, 17 is the hypotenuse. So instead of calling it the adjacent side, we call it the hypotenuse. So looking for opposite when given the hypotenuse, our best choice is to use the sine. So we'll say the sine of 54 degrees is equal to opposite, which is W, over hypotenuse, which is 17. Okay. Now, in the calculator, different calculators have different steps, but for most, you will punch in the button that reads SIN, right? And then you will hit 54, right? And then you will actually multiply by 17, because algebraically, to solve for W, we would multiply these two values. and you would get a value of, let's see, I think this one becomes, if I punch it in, 13.8. Okay, so W would be 13.8. So looking at B, we would say we're now given angle 28. We have the opposite side given, and we're looking for the adjacent side. So looking at my ratios, which ones use opposite and adjacent? And that, of course, would be tangent. So we would say the tangent of 28 degrees is equal to 1.0 over W, right? And then, of course, if we solve that one, we would see that we want to divide 1.0 by the tangent of 28 to get W, and that's just algebra. So you would punch that into your calculator, and once you punch it in, you would see that this one is actually 1.9 is the answer. Okay, moving on to C. For C, we have this angle at 33, and we have the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So for this one, we'll use cosine. So we'll say the cosine of 33 degrees is equal to, and we'll say the adjacent side is W over the hypotenuse, which is 4.5. And again, we put cosine of 33 into the calculator and then multiply by 4.5. Then we'll find that W is going to be equal to 3.8. Again, the directions asking us to round to the nearest tenth. Okay? Now, if we look at this word problem, we see that we're looking at a section of a street in San Francisco that's at an angle of 17 degrees. If we walk up 150 feet on this section, what is your vertical rise? So this is the street that goes this way. Here's your 17 degrees, right? And it's asking for this right here. Okay, so it says we walked 150 feet up this actual rise. So our angle is 17 degrees, right? Our hypotenuse is 150, and we're actually looking for the opposite side. So we will say the sine of 17 degrees is equal to x, because that's what we're looking for, right, over 150 feet. And once we punch that into the calculator, we'll see that x is equal to 44 feet. It's important for this section that you use the calculator in class that you're going to use on the test so that you are prepared and you know where all the different buttons are on your particular calculator. Okay, for the inverse, I actually have another video for you so that you can actually click on this and you can see the Pearson website video actually solving these problems for you as well. But this is how we're going to use the inverse, and this goes back to what we had in the very first section where we ended up with the ratios. So for this one, it's asking us to find the measure of angle x. So here is angle x, and if we want to find this angle, we have to use the side lengths that are given, which is the opposite and the hypotenuse. So that tells us that we want to use sine. So what I would say is that x is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is 6 over 10. In order to put that in the calculator, though, I will have to use the inverse sine button. So in my calculator, I'm going to say sine -1, which for most calculators is going to be on the second keypad. Punch that in and then add 6 divided by 10, and you should get an answer of approximately 37 degrees. For B, we are going to use the adjacent side and the hypotenuse to find x. So that's going to give us the cosine of x is going to equal 15 over 20. Again, in our calculator, we're going to use that inverse cosine, and then we're going to punch in 15 divided by 20, and we will get a measurement of about 41 degrees. Okay, so go through the practice problems. Go ahead and answer the got it problem for example number 3. And on your homework, you may just work on the odd problems so that you can check your answers with the back of the book or with your iPad. Okay, and we will review on Friday and answer any questions that you may have. Good luck.